people don't know this, but Clay doesn't charge for just finding the data. When you enrich and find the emails is when you start paying.
Having done 100 Clay implementations, in my opinion, there are only 10 or 11 main Clay tables that can be templated and cycled across clients.
You can find out followers of your competitors without using any third-party tool, just within Clay, right?
We worked with a tool called Workmate, which is a Calendly alternative. We just go after every person that follows Calendly, and we're like, hey, we're like Calendly, but a bit cooler, we're a bit different. So the way that I see the GTM space, there are 5 different tools that you need to know to build any lead list.
Which one's your favorite?
Controversial, very controversial. So on my side, I love.
You had this fantastic campaign for a bicycle company, such great customization that even if 100 emails are sent, you're going to get a tremendous response rate, right?
For example, in the email, it will basically say, hey, I was looking at how your product is appearing in AI searches. You're clearly aligned on GEO, which is how they show up in AI searches like via Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT. On the back of that, we say, hey, fine, we'll rescue you to generate 23 positive replies. And across the board, I think about 80 replies came just directly from this specific email copy.
Say this is not gold, this is diamond.
Falling for the workflow they see on LinkedIn, but those are built for lead magnets. They're not built for real businesses.
Welcome to Edbound with Kinner, Tim. It's so lovely to have you with us today.
Thanks so much for the invite, Kinner. Looking forward to talking to you.
Wonderful. Now, I know you personally. We've had a few chats before, and I'm so excited to be doing this with you again because you run one of the leading agencies in the B2B space based out of London. B2B Boosted is the name. And I think there are very few people with this deep level of expertise in Clay, AI automation, NA10, so many things around it. And that's kind of evident with the thousands of student, base community that you built across the globe. So what's exciting right now in B2B GTM that you are showing to the world, helping all these people learn?
Sure. Thank you for the shout out there, Kinner. So essentially, I think there are a lot of exciting, shiny objects in the AI GTM space right now. So I think some of the most obvious standouts, probably most trending tools right now that you probably hear the most is Claude Code, Hermes Agent, OpenClaw, as well as some of the kind of incumbent tools like Clay and NA10 that have entered the picture probably a year or two ago. So I would say those are the top 5 tools that are most mainstream right now.
Awesome. So I want to just highlight to people listening to this that by the end of this, I can guarantee, because this has happened with me personally, I'm going to mention that their outbound capability, their understanding of what could work and why they should do outbound with email, utilizing Clay, Claude Code, they'll learn all of that and they'll learn from the best, right? So let's dive into it. I know you have a presentation and like a nice mind map, so we could run through it. I have a few questions as well, but I'll let you kind of set the tone around what is it that people should look at when they're trying to set up their B2B outbound motion.
Absolutely, Kinner. So here we go. So essentially, just for a bit of context to start with, so I run an agency business, I run an education business, and across both businesses right now, we have 6 full-time employees. Essentially, just before we dive into all of the exciting tools, all the stuff that we want to cover together, just a quick disclaimer. So on my side, my business model is a bit different to most other businesses. So I have the agency, which implements a lot of these GTM tools, and then I have an education business on top of that. So you can see in total that's 6 different employees. And the way that I basically split the responsibility right now is that I have one person who runs all of my clients on the agency side. I have one person that works on demand generation, so the marketing side of things. Then we have one person that does GTM engineering. Well, more or less like 2 people that do it now. And we have one person that's responsible for automations. So I think there are a lot of shiny objects that we can talk about today, but the 3 main pillars of my agency business and my education business is OpenClaw, Claude Code, and Clay. Curious, Kinner, on your side, which ones you want to dive into first out of all of them?
I think let's start with Clay, because when you start an outbound campaign, the first thing that you look at is looking at the data. Like, how would you identify your ICP? Who are you going after? And I think the best place to find that data for 0 credits. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but Clay doesn't charge for just finding the data. When you enrich and try and find the emails is when you start paying. So if you're on any plan of Clay, you could do that. But I think let's begin with Clay because that's the point 1.
Sure thing. So I think the first thing to keep in mind with Clay is, as you just pointed out there, so whenever you do get your Clay account, you're able to go in to find leads as soon as you're inside of your Clay account. And there you're able to build people lists, job lists, or company lists. So that means you can either build lead lists, if I just click on people over here, which would look similar to this. So with a bunch of different like filtering criteria, right? Alternatively, you can even find job openings if you're like a recruiter or someone that wants to use this as a signal. For example, if someone is hiring for a sales rep, obviously it's symptomatic of them, wanting some help with lead generation or something of that sort. So I think Clay is a good starting point, simply because even if you're on a free trial, you can literally go and get as much data on a people level, company level, or job level completely for free, right? Without paying any of the credits. So I think if we do start with Clay as a part of this, I think the first main thing that's super, super important is that there has to be some sort of intake form, because a lot of people jump onto Clay, and I'm sure, Kinney, you can relate to this. You've probably seen a lot of people jump onto Clay and they don't have a use case for it because they understand that it's this like AI thing, but they don't really know what the hell do we actually do with it, right? A lot of people are just falling for the workflows that they see on LinkedIn that work for others, but those are built for lead magnets. They're not built for real businesses. So the first thing that I always encourage all of my clients or anyone that's, I've ever had the pleasure of meeting or talking to, the first thing that I encourage is for them to fill in a scoping form. And I can share like an example of this scoping form with the audience if that's interesting to you later down the line. But essentially the main idea is just to answer some basic questions on what the product is that you're selling, what's the persona is, who you're selling to, what are the pain points that you're solving, and what's your current process? Like what tools do you have access to? Because all these tools you can basically synchronize together with Clay. So the first thing, before you jump into Clay, before anyone even considers Clay as a solution, I recommend to just map out every single subscription that you have right now and understand where are you getting your data from. Is it from your CRM? Is it from your past kind of like note-taker notes, for example? Is it from webinar events, basically you name it? You just need to understand where is all of that data coming from, and you need to fill in a form that basically just clarifies the 4 Ps that I mentioned. So persona, pain points, process, and whatever the fourth one is, products, right? So that's the first thing. After you have all of that, typically Clay, for the purpose of like my agency and for the purpose of like anything that I've done in the past, I would say Clay best fits tech stacks of companies that are already spending over $1,000 a month on all of these fancy GTM tools. So most of the time, if you don't have if you cannot accommodate for a tech stack that will in total cost you about $1,000 a month, in my opinion, Clay is not the right solution for you. And you should look for alternatives on the market. For example, just using Claude Code on its own without, Clay necessarily. And then on the basis of that, some standout features for Clay right now. I'll just click really quickly over here. You can see we find the most relevant Clay tables. So in my case, I'm very privileged to be working with some great GTM engineers. So we have a workbook templates library whereby you can see over here every single Clay table is like a...
Can we go just talk maybe a couple of seconds about each one of them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So having done over probably 100 Clay implementations by now, I've identified that, in my opinion, there are only 10 or 11 main Clay tables that can be templated and cycled across clients. So in this case, I'm going to go through them one by one, and I'll explain the use cases, and you may find some of these use cases particularly appetizing for your business, for anyone that's obviously watching or listening to this. So the first workflow over here is a template within Clay. I'll open it up in a second, which enables you to input a website of a company. And based on that, we can basically go and find the email address of the decision makers in the company. And this is specifically used for brick and mortar businesses. So if I click into this template over here, we should be able to see that it basically redirects me over here. I can have the option to create the workbook using the template. I can select like a random Clay account, create a workbook, and in real time, we're able to scrape Google Maps for local businesses. So what I mean by that is we're able to, if I just go over here really quickly, we're able to basically scrape any locations that we want for local businesses, very similar to how inside of Clay, otherwise, you will be able to just find local businesses like barbershops, restaurants, or something like that within a specific geographic area. And we're able to find their decision makers. Because, Kinna, I'm sure you've worked with a lot of businesses in the past where their targets do not sit on LinkedIn or Apollo or Sales Navigator. For that, you need to target Google Maps. And this is just one of many clay tables that enables you to basically find decision makers within local businesses, run them through an email waterfall, which basically finds you the most up-to-date email address and mobile number. And on the basis of that, you can either automate the outreach to them or alternatively call them or do something of that sort as well. And for context, with most of our clients right now, the way that we see it is one of these 10 templates. I'll keep on going through some of the other ones as well, but some of these templates are most applicable. So for anyone that's selling to local businesses, this is a must-have template. We also have some other like local business templates. The second one is very similar to that. We also have followers of competitors. And I think, we discussed this last time, I know, but it's basically the idea of you identifying some competitors on LinkedIn and then looking who follows your competitors on LinkedIn. And then on that basis, identifying anyone that fits your ideal client profile within the followers of your competitors. So again, that gives you a way to reach out to them. But yet, any thoughts on that, Kineto?
And you can do all this within Clay. Like you can find out the followers of your competitors without using any third-party tool, just within Clay, right?
Yeah, so for context, in this case over here, as you can see on the right-hand side, we have like the Loom videos. The Loom videos, in our case, will tell our GTM engineers or whoever is building the clay table that, hey, for this, if I just show you the followers of competitors as an example, let's say we open this clay table. Let's imagine I just push this into my clay account really quickly. We should be able to see that in this case, we just need to import the data first. So that means that over here, we need to import all of those fields in order for this clay table to run. So in other words, for this, we need to go to another website to basically find the followers of competitors. So this could be a website like scrapely.io, for example, which gets you a list of your competitors' followers, or this can be some other place like Apify as well. And this is one of the tools that we partner with, for example, on the education side of the business, because most of our students want to scrape hundreds, if not, like millions of prospects. And then it's as simple as you just importing them straight into a clay table, and it will run automatically in real time. It will go through just like enriching the company, qualifying it, finding the email addresses, and then doing the outreach. And then you need to fine tune that outreach a bit because the value proposition of each business will be somewhat different as well.
Yeah. No, this is fantastic. I mean, this could be a gold mine for people who are just starting out. I love the tool name scrappy.io.
Yeah. No, it's actually it's one of those OT tools run by a guy out of Bangladesh called Sambath, and he's very, very sharp. They've got really good. They've been great to us ever since we started working together with them. And we've probably pulled millions of contacts from them of followers of competitors. And those campaigns tend to give you quite a lot of top of funnel because I'll give you an example. We worked with a tool called Workmate, which is a Calendly alternative. So it's like a scheduling link, like a meeting scheduling software.
Yeah.
And for that, we just go after every person that follows Calendly. And we're like, hey, we're like Calendly, but we're, a bit cooler. We're a bit different. Right. And a lot of people naturally switch from the more expensive tools to the ones that, like newcomers to the market. So it's pretty good.
Wow. That's a fantastic idea. I mean, I love it. Okay. Well, what's the next one? So you're saying followers of complementary.
Yeah.
Sales tools. Yeah.
Yeah. So this could be followers of complementary tools in general. So if you think about it, let's say you're selling HubSpot CRM, you may not care about you reaching out to followers of like Salesforce, your competitor, but you may worry about reaching out to followers of complementary tools. So if you're a CRM, you go after the email automation tool, right? And people that follow that. So you're just looking for companies that integrate within your ecosystem. And that way, if they're using a complementary tool, it's somewhat symptomatic of them requiring your services as well. So that's another angle, but it's a very similar template as well. So it's just basically just a different angle of saying, hey, we know that you're within this ecosystem. We know that you might have these, pain points that we're able to solve for you. So that's another pretty cool use case. And then on top of that, there are various other ones. For example, targeting companies with keywords in the job description. So this one is quite self-explanatory as well. So the idea behind it is, if you see companies hiring for a specific job title with a specific keyword, you know what technologies they're using. For example, if they have, let's say, NA10 in the job description, you can hit them up selling your AI and automation services because
maybe a Zapier. So
Yeah, or they
Zapier
use
could
APO,
target
which
them.
is
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, yeah. If they use APO, you'd be like, oh, hey, like we can see you're a bit old school, like
Yeah.
this is very 2018. Why not switch to the
Yeah. Yeah.
cloud hosted version, which will save you X amount per month, right? So some of these are like standard playbook kind of
Can we
automated.
click on this one? Can we click on this one and let people kind of know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can this be built entirely in Clay, or do you go outside to
Absolutely. Yeah,
build
yeah.
this?
So we can actually build it in real time, I'm pretty sure now. So let's just let it load. So let's give it a couple of seconds. And you should be able to see in this case, like this looks really complex here, but if we go into table 2, so all we basically need to do is just find a list of companies. So I'm just going to say find jobs. Let's have a look. Find jobs. You can see it's completely free, doesn't cost you any credits or anything.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know about this, so I'm glad you're kind of showing this. And I'm wondering, if you're kind of able to show and add so much value in a podcast. I think a lot of people should look at taking your course. That could be mind blowing.
Absolutely. To be honest, I have free courses on YouTube. And again, I'm sure we can share my socials and stuff later. But I have free courses, like 2-hour course. I have a 7-hour course completely free coming out on how to use clay.com as well. So I'm, as much as I love to like implement this, I love to teach it as well, because I find that I get a lot sharper as well with this. Because, like the minute that you have to explain it from first principles, that's the minute that you can, solidify your own knowledge as well. But coming back to this though, as you can see, we're using a template for targeting companies with keywords in the job description. Let's imagine we're going
So these
after,
are posted jobs. What
yeah,
this means is that these are jobs out on platforms where people are looking to hire these people, like accountant, right?
yeah, like accountants. Let's imagine that they have QuickBooks, which is one of the most common
Yeah.
accounting softwares in the world. In this case, we can just say continue, save to existing table, and then we can select which table to save this to. So let's imagine we want to go after, in this case, we'll probably go after table 2 over here, select the table. Let's just see how that plays out. And in this case, if we then go into table 3, we can then basically, I'll just do this search all over again quickly, just so we can really show the most, like how this works. Just give it a couple of seconds. QuickBooks. But you can see in this case, we've just basically uploaded a list of open roles. So we're looking at every company
Yeah.
hiring an accountant. In this case, we just need to basically change the prompt slightly to see if this job matches our ideal client profile.
Yeah.
Because in this case, we would need to really prompt it to say, hey, we're looking for accountant open roles. We need to make sure that they mention QuickBooks. And then on the basis of that, we can then enrich the company to make sure that we know how many employees it has, what the company description is, all that good stuff. And then based on that, we can then basically reach out to them, find some contacts within the company and reach out to them and do, the rest of it. And obviously in this case, this is quite a complex clay table because it has like a clay workbook because it has about 4 different clay tables within it. And the best part about all of this is that now you're able to actually not build out these tables step by step or to use these templates. Instead, you could just prompt it in Claude Code and say, hey, remember this
Yeah.
template number 4, template number 5, whatever it is, go basically do this for me. And it will basically go and perform those actions on your behalf without you needing to understand every single enrichment or action inside of Clay. So there are some upsides, there are some downsides
Yeah.
to that, but I recommend for anyone that's trying to get into Clay to either get an agency or a freelancer or actually learn it yourself, because otherwise you'll be burned quite a lot of times when it comes to Clay credits, similar to how now I just had to accept, like, I think it was like 10,000 credits spent on that table, but luckily I pulled out pretty fast. So I only burned like 200 credits, which is like, I don't know, 50 cents or something on that. But yeah, that's the idea. And then overall, as you can see, there are a lot of other Clay tables that most companies would be interested in. For example, reaching out to people that are new in role, because typically new in role is somewhat symptomatic of someone being more likely to purchase a new solution
Yeah.
or service. Because obviously, when you're new in a role, you're reassessing your tech stack. So that's another option. And then we have some job reactions as well, whereby some recruitment businesses, some recruitment softwares like to reach out to companies as soon as a job is listed, saying like, hey, let's be real, no A player is going to scroll to the 3rd page of Glassdoor to look at this like intern job opening or like whatever, like to this CMO job opening. Do you want us to go and source the best in the market candidates that are typically not found on job boards, right? So there are a
Wow.
lot of different plays that you can do around job reactions, whereby you take an open role, you analyze the job description. Based on that, you can even interpret what headaches the company is facing. For example, if the chief marketing officer has, for example, the HeyReach keyword, HeyReach is a revenue attribution software, you can reach out to them and be like, oh, hey, you might need our whatever revenue attribution service because I can see that you're using this software, or you want your future CFO to use this software. So there are a lot of different kind of plays and a lot of different angles. My biggest hate and my biggest concern with the GTM space or the agency space is that most agencies just give you 1 or 2 campaigns a month and then they're very hands off. They're like, hey, we send out 10,000 contacts, that's it. Like we go and have a look at the dashboard for some replies. But in reality, when you have this templated, for us, it's not marginally more time or more money to launch more different angles and campaigns. Because all of this is just, it's you use the template, you can get Claude Code to actually run the table for you. There is no excuse to not be running like 3 or 5 campaigns per month or even per week sometimes. So I think some of these should be somewhat inspirational. I hope, whoever watches or listens this far, hopefully you already got a couple of nice golden nuggets. And then I'll just briefly, if you don't mind, just walk through the last 3 templates as well, because I think Clay is one of those where use cases is, top of mind when it comes to Outbound.
Yeah. But this is fantastic. And I must say, this is not gold. This is diamond. Not the synthetic ones, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Because a lot of people don't understand this is not just Clay table. I mean, let me just highlight for people who are listening to us. We've done this with a lot of organizations, and when we are as a startup trying to figure out how do we build our strategy. So what you just showed is not templates, it's strategy. And I think this could be the difference between life and death for a startup, unless they find like a strong product market fit, which in my thought is actually a misnomer for most of the companies. They'll never find let's say the legendary product market fit that gurus used to talk about. It's all about distribution now. So this is brilliant stuff. Let's I think we could move from Clay now to if you would show us Claude Code. And I know a few of these could be done on Claude Code. And let me just highlight for people who are listening to us that, you gave a fantastic idea last time we were talking about running a campaign where, would you like to show us that email that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Why not? Let's do it.
Yeah. So you had this fantastic campaign for a bike, like a bicycle company or something that you also have published as a case study. And the fantastic thing about that campaign was you'd done such great research and customization that even if 100 emails are sent, you're going to get like a tremendous response rate, right? So yeah, I mean, I love this actually. It's very rare and I haven't come across this deep work ever before. So if you could highlight a little bit about this campaign.
Absolutely. Sure thing, Guinness. So just for a bit of context, I think we caught up a couple of weeks ago, and during that conversation, I showed off this email template. And essentially, this is sent on behalf of a digital marketing agency. They also have a software product that they're selling to e-commerce and software businesses. And the main idea in this case is for us to basically, in the opening line, grab their attention. And if someone reads the preview text in the email inside on their phone, for example, in the email inbox, you will basically just say, hey, I was looking at how your online, how your specific product is appearing in AI searches amongst your specific ICP. So in this case, riders are the ICP. Then we call them out saying that a specific competitor is ranking ahead of them. So this has to be factually correct. And then on the back of that, we also basically then name drop a couple more competitors and explain how those competitors are standing out compared to the recipient of this email. And in return, we basically try and agitate them and just say, hey, we can see you're struggling. You're clearly behind on SEO. You're clearly behind on GEO, which is how they show up in AI searches like via Claude or Perplexity or ChatGPT. And on the back of that, we say, hey, fine, we'll rescue you. Just reply this word audit, and in return, we'll send you a report. And then the TNC, of course, behind this report is that, all right, we'll send it to you in return for a call where we can go over it, what time works for you. So there is a natural upsell into a conversation. Found with this campaign specifically, you can see that we basically repurposed this across a lot of campaigns here. We can see that in this case, it generated 23 positive replies. And across the board, I think about 80 replies came just directly from this specific email copy. And that's targeting e-commerce and software founders. And you can see it's been consistently performing really well. And it's been fully done using Claude Code. So every single step along the way, like the copywriting, everything is done via Claude Code. I'll show you the exact system step by step in a second. But before that, just to close the loop on Clay, literally 2 seconds on that. With Clay, I think 2 other use cases that any kind of sales leader should consider is either using Clay for CRM related work. So for example, if you have 20,000 contacts in your CRM, you need to make sure that you validate the email addresses to make sure that the individuals working at that company still work for the company because their email address is still valid. If not, find out that they work for a new company, and you can update your CRM that way, so you can track new type of job changes, and that way it acts as a new sales opening for your business. So that's the first thing with Clay. And the second thing is the Clay ads integration, which enables you to increase your match rates. So if you have a lot of money tied up with ads, you want to increase your match rates, their new integration is really good. I wouldn't go into the details, but again, if you want to sweat the 1%, I've done numerous videos on how to do that. It's all on YouTube. So if you type in Clay ads integration, a lot of stuff will come up. For the time being though, if Clay is not top of mind, or if for whatever reason you've heard the hype about Claude Code, I think it's perfect time to jump into Claude Code, right?
I want to just set the context a little bit deeper for people listening to us. The email that you showed, we built a similar workflow because I learned this from you and I looked at the response rates and they were through the roof. Amazing work there. So what we did is we gave this task to Hermes, gave it a list of about 2,000 companies that we were targeting for our platform. And we said that, look at everybody's website, see what's missing in terms of what our platform solves. And then tell them, this is missing. If you implemented it right, I looked at the website and, this could go right? So we used Hermes and it took about an hour and a half, which is for, all the comparison purposes, it's almost similar to OpenClaw. Some people swear by OpenClaw, some love Hermes, but I think I'll let you take over for, talking a little bit about OpenClaw. It's been a game changer. We just started a couple of days ago, and just out of 600-700 emails, we've received multiple positive responses. And we've received some no's as well. And I was just telling someone that I've received a response from someone, I'm retiring in 2 days. This is super interesting. I'm going to make an introduction to the guy who's taking over, right? It's a very interesting email. But people should listen to what you're going to tell now, because this I have tested myself, and this was just a passing conversation with you. So I'm just trying to highlight to people what magic you can create when you go deep into something, right? So over to you, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kenneth. So one other side point, I will make sure I've just made a mental note, and I'm going to type this up on the back of this call, to share a file with you with all the positive replies that we received over the last year. So it's a swipe file of all the emails that we sent on behalf of our clients. We blur out our clients' email addresses, of course, but it gives you the idea of the kind of standard that you need to aim for to get positive replies through cold email as a channel. And specifically for us, it's really useful because we use it as social proof whenever someone is asking us, because, email copy is quite subjective. So some people can read this email and be like, hey, it's AI or it's robotic or whatever it is. So we really like to kind of front load that and share it with every person in the world so that people can just read it for themselves and then see, hey, is this the kind of copywriting style that I want to learn or want to have implemented for me? Or if not, cool, you can at least, see what's already working in the market. So I think that's definitely, a good starting point. I'll make sure to share that swipe file with you. But in the meantime,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. I want to call you the Robin Hood of Outbound.
Yeah. That's the idea. So if you look at the GTM education space, a lot of companies are charging high tickets kind of prices, thousands of dollars. And when I entered the scene, I was 23, young dudes, I don't really have that much behind me apart from 5 years of doing B2B sales for startups in London, which is, some people have decades of experience. My logic was to just undercut them in terms of pricing straight away. And that's how, we taught over 1,000 students, and 5 people from Clay bought our course, including their co-founder. It's just, so the reason for that is because the pricing is always, the leading price within the market. And I'm not saying it just to like flex, but also to just stress that like I do try to make this accessible. Like most of the knowledge is not behind high ticket paywalls or anything of that sort. It's all within $30 to range, which most people can realistically justify. And if not, there are also money back guarantees. But enough shameless pitching on my side. I'll just walk through Claude Code, because essentially before we jump into all of these tools, just for people to like have a rough understanding of this, all it is we had Clay in the past. So if I just draw Clay over here, right? And all Clay is just a bunch of different APIs that are connected into Clay. So for example, you could have like your email finder API, your whatever sales navigator, your CRM, all of those are just different APIs that push data into Clay, right? So instead, what I'm going to show you now, if you don't want to use Clay, I'm going to show you how we could do that using Claude Code. Obviously, CC standing for Claude Code. And in the meantime, apologies for the awful drawing there, but I was just trying to emphasize that all we're doing is that we're tying together all of these different APIs. So for the purpose of this, we'll be using Claude Code. Again, I'll just walk you through the process end to end, and I'll show you in real time how that would work. Most of the time, you always start with an intake form. We then identify the use cases. So this is assuming that you want to use Claude Code for go-to-market. You first of all need to feed it an intake form with a bunch of like different things about your business. Then it identifies the use cases based on that intake form. So it identifies the kind of workflows that you can build inside of Claude Code. It then selects the right tools because, you still need all of those different APIs to find the email addresses and all that good stuff. Then it will enable you to source your leads, to enrich those leads and to qualify them, do the copywriting, launch campaigns. So that can be via LinkedIn automation or via email automation. And then on the back of that, it can monitor the campaigns, do the reporting for you, top up the campaigns, create new ideas, create and schedule automations using Claude routines, and learn from all of these campaigns. So, Kinner, I understand like those 10 steps could be somewhat boring to the audience listening now, but it's about time I show the behind the scenes of like what Claude Code actually looks like. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to share my entire screen. I'm going to use Visual Studio Code for the purpose of this demonstration. As I'm sure you're aware, Kinner, but just for the benefit of the audience, in order for you to use Claude Code, you need like an AI wrapper, otherwise known as an integrated development environment, an IDE. And in this case, Visual Studio Code is that integrated development environment. And you can see over here the Claude Code emoji. So I'm just going to click into that and it will start a new session for me. And now I'm just going to show you really quickly the end-to-end process of how we can go through all 10 of these steps that we want to talk about. So first of all, starting with this, let's just give it a quick example. Let's run a demo setup of an outbound campaign for GTM for my favorite client. Let's say Annika Digital, just as an example. I want to reach out to, and then let's go with ecom and SaaS founders in the US, pitching them SEO and geo services. So this is just a quick example. Typically, I would say start off with plan mode all the time, because if you start off with plan mode, it will enable you to plan the campaign. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to select auto mode because I pretty much, trust what's going to be happening here. And again, since we already trained up Claude Code and all of these knowledge, since we gave it a lot of PDF files, it basically knows how to pull off all of these 10 steps that we just talked about, right? So before you jump into Claude Code, you should already have a good idea of what you want to be done on a manual level, because as long as you can plug in what's going to be done on a manual level, you can basically go and automate and perform those actions on your behalf. So in this case, you'll just basically, as you can see over here, you'll just run a quick demo for you. And the idea behind the demo is just to show you step by step how this would execute if we actually ran this and burned a lot of credits in the process. But for the time being, I'm just showing this to you as an end-to-end demo environment. So we just need to give it a couple of seconds. But in the meantime, Sure, go on.
I have a question in the meantime. Now, you just spoke about using Claude Code for a lot of work that Clay could do. And I agree. I think a lot of it could be supplemented, and Claude Code does a fantastic job. I mean, we've tried it for multiple workflows, and the one that I just mentioned about Hermes doing that research, it could be done in Claude Code as well. So, if you set up like a Hostinger account or something and just let Claude Code run for the entire day, it works. The question I have is, one of the use cases Clay now gives in the middle plan, the one that comes for $500 a month, you could identify visitors on your website, like put their cookie in, and you could identify people who are coming to the website and retarget and build tables in Clay, enrich them, look at if it's my right ICP, then I target them. If you enlarge it, you'll see it in one of the offering here, that they now have what our B2B offers. So I don't know if you have a recommendation for that workflow, of any other tool that works well, cost effectively. Is there anything that you've implemented for that?
Absolutely, yes. So I'd say worth noting that if you are using Clay, you have this web intent signal,
Yeah.
which basically enables you to capture anyone that visits your website, specifically in the US market. So that means they can
Yeah.
tell you, hey, Kinner has just visited your website. Here is his LinkedIn profile. Here is his email address. However, the caveat to that is that Clay in this case, since Clay is just the middleman that connects all the APIs, they're taking a large cut. So what I personally recommend instead, and what I personally use right now at the time of this conversation, I use this tool called Knock2, and it does the exact same thing. It's a lot more intuitive to set up. And what it basically does on the back of it is, if I just go into a Slack channel, it basically just sends you in real time
Nice.
Slack notifications with a lead score. So it qualifies the lead against your ideal client profile, what page they visited, how many pages they visited in total, how many employees they have, what location it is. You can click into the business, you can click into the LinkedIn profile most of the time of the individual. You can click on qualify or disqualify, and this would trigger a specific workflow. So if you click on qualify, you could enroll them in a specific email sequence. Or alternatively, if this is not the right fit within the company, it can help you find other stakeholders within the buying committee, which for any of you guys
Wow.
that are as
That's
obsessed with
nice.
like the medic methodology as I am, you'd love that as well, right? And the main idea behind this, you can see this, I think this is just maybe from today, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, you can see we capture web visitors in real time. I personally tried a lot of tools. Knock2 is the most affordable. If you do get in touch with their team, especially, they can give you flexible pricing if you have more than one website. In my case, I have 5 different websites for different courses and agency services. So in my case, I have like all sorts of funky funnels that basically retarget people that visit my website, and it basically reaches
Yeah.
out to me saying, oh, hey, if you're watching this, chances are you probably need to, have this thing implemented, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So I would say Knock2 is great, and it doesn't take that much of a cut compared to Clay if you're looking specifically for website visitors. But in the meantime, whilst we're talking about all of this good stuff, Kenna, you can see over here in real time, this just created a quick demo environment. Worth noting that in reality, it will take maybe 20 minutes to do this. But since we ran a quick demo, this is how typically it would unfold. So it will ask us some clarifying questions back when we ask it to basically set up like an outbound campaign, for example. And on the basis of that, it will go through those steps. So it will build the list, it will enrich and qualify it, it will segment it, it will do the copywriting, it will QA it to make sure that there are no M dashes or anything of that sort. And then you can see in real time, just basically does all of that. It basically drops some leads that are not a good ICP fit, then enriches it with email addresses, even can do mobile numbers to find your mobile numbers of all these prospects. You can create an email sequence for you. So this is what like an email at random looks like. And typically with these kind of emails, you want to rewrite them. So in the chat here, you can just copy it and rewrite it so that you train AI on how to improve the emails. And then on the back of that, you can push them into your campaign inside of Instantly or whatever
Yeah.
automation tool of choice you want to use. Biggest caveat to all of this, Kina, I know you know this, but just for the benefit of the audience, the biggest caveat is you need to have the right files that give the right brain to Claude Code. So you need to upload the right PDF files with like copywriting frameworks, examples of good copy versus bad copy, so that you can train it up so it can write well on your behalf. And this is something that enables you to ship a lot of campaigns super, super fast. So any thoughts on that, Ken, at all? Let me know.
No, I think this is brilliant. A lot of people struggle a lot with all these emails. I want to highlight something here. People think that AI writes slop all the time and people can't get it right, but I can testify for that. That I think for the last 2 months or so, I haven't written any single email myself. It's all written by Claude. Cowork and Claude Chat. I have built my voice skill by training Claude on about 10,000 messages that I have written in the past. So it makes the same mistakes that I make. And I kind of trained it to make the same mistakes or same quirks and all of that. So I think, the swipe file that you mentioned, it would be awesome if you could share the link. We're going to share it with people. This is literally thousands of dollars of value that you've dropped in, for free. And if they put all those files, they train their Claude, they could do a fantastic job. So thanks for sharing that so freely. Now, if we could move to quickly last 5-6 minutes on what's the power of OpenClaw, where does it fit into some of the stuff that you mentioned right now? And just before you go there, I want to highlight to people that, they understood how to identify audiences, the kind of signals, the kind of things that they could do through Clay using Claude Code. But I just want to also highlight that the tools that they could use to run an open email, like a cold email campaign, could be Smartlead, Instantly. There are tons of others as well. Am I right? I mean, am I missing anything there? Because that's one piece that we missed out there. What's your choice for the tool?
Absolutely. So I think for context, like again, for the purpose of this, I'm just going to show you something that's obviously I've created in the past. So the way that I see the GTM space, there are 5 or 6 main categories for sales tools that cover across everything that you need in order to run effective GTM motion for your business. Of course, depending on budget, you may choose not to use certain tools within a certain category because it could get quite expensive. But in most cases, you need a list building tool. Again, for the purpose of this, I can give you the guide to like how to build the right lead list based on a specific use case, because you don't need all of these tools. These are just examples of some of the tools that I use on a day-to-day basis. But essentially, there are 5 different tools that you need to know to build any lead list. Depending on the use case, you just select one out of the 5. A lot of the time, you would need an email automation tool. So some of the most common ones are Instantly, Smartlead, SendKit, like Growth Machine, Lemlist. I'm sure you're familiar with all of those. LinkedIn
Which one's your favorite? Which one's your favorite?
Controversial, very controversial. So on my side, I love Smartlead. I've been with Smartlead for the last probably 2 years. However, I'm also biased because I have like a partnership with them. And at the same time, I'm also biased because I have a partnership with Lemlist. So because Lemlist, for context, enables you to do outreach multi-channel. So using SMS, WhatsApp, voice notes, you can embed video within, some of the outreach that you do there as well. So I love Lemlist for multi-channel, Smartlead for email only. On the LinkedIn automation side of things, I'm in love with HeyReach. I've used them ever since they were doing like 5,000 euros per month in revenue. I remember having a chat with them like 3 years ago when they were just getting started. Now they're doing like 16 million a year. So HeyReach is my LinkedIn automation tool of choice. Email finders, again, at the time of us recording this, I'm associated with FullEnrich. I run their podcast on YouTube. I'm all in on FullEnrich. I love their tool, but some of the other tools that you can see on the screen now are great email finders as well. In my opinion, FullEnrich is the best of the category, but again, it's all subjective. It's like supporting a football team, right? And then on top, it's just it's quite a polarizing space overall. And then on top of that, you need an email infrastructure whereby you buy domains and inboxes, because you should never do outreach in your main email domain, because you don't want to ruin your reputation from sending large chunks of cold emails. Again, there are some tools over here. I prefer PrimeForge. I like InboxKit. I use all of these interchangeably, so my loyalty is quite low on the email infrastructure side of things. And I can go on for ages. There are AI copywriting tools like Octave and Twain AI. There is also website visitor de-anonymization tools that I use. There are CRMs that you can use. Again, I might give you a link to this so the audience can have a look at some of these tools.
This would be gold. If you can, this is fantastic.
The main thing is, for context, because I used to film SOPs for my team in the past for how to use all of these tools. So now basically what I've done is for each tool, for example, like let's say we go on Smartlead, you have a how to use the tool video. Wow. And it gives you why you should use this and like the rank in the category as well. So for anyone that's like new to the space and for anyone that wants to master it, again, like I've spent God knows how many weekends, filming those. So yeah, I'll make sure to share those things with you, Ken, as well. Maybe we'll do a giveaway for some of the courses as well. on the socials, just so that people, can get some value out of it. But I think, as you mentioned, we have a couple of minutes left. So for the purpose of this, I think we covered Claude Code, which is a more budget-friendly way to run GTM because you can plug in all the different other tools. And based on that, Claude Code can basically just automate a large chunk of your GTM stuff. We covered Clay, and really quickly, I'll just cover OpenClaw. And OpenClaw, I'll just show you really, really quickly. In my case, it's embedded within my Slack chat. So I'll just say really quickly, hey, Izzy, what can you do for me?
If I may ask, is he name of your ex or something?
No, so this is where it gets quite confusing, right? So I was trying to pick some names and some because for context, this is like an AI agent. So I generated this picture using Nano Banana, right? And in this case, I use Izzy as my personal assistant. And sometimes if someone is trying to, if someone asks me, hey, can you follow up after this meeting or something like that? I hate drafting emails. Instead, I just message Izzy saying, hey, draft that email that I promised in my tone, send it out. And you can see that Izzy can literally do anything. As far as names go, my one assistant is called Tom because it's similar to Tim, right? So it's quite a similar name. And for female names, I was choosing between something mainstream like Izzy or Jess or something like that. So I arrived at Izzy. And you can see she can basically do anything, or the agent can do anything that I do on a day-to-day basis, whether that's business related, like running outbound campaigns, researching, writing copy, logging deals into the CRM. And all it takes for context is if you go to hostinger.com/VPS, I believe it is, you can basically just get a virtual private server. And all it is you basically just get the virtual private server. I have a 1 hour or 2 hour training showing how to create such AI agents. And all it is you just feed a bunch of data at the AI agent. It looks at how you historically performed these tasks. You give the AI agent access to API keys. And then on that basis, it's able to perform certain actions on your behalf, like sending emails or doing all of this stuff. And out of all of these tools, I think specifically OpenClaw is good for day-to-day operational tasks that are team-wide. So anyone from my team can message Izzy, and Izzy is able to help them draft messages or access our CRM or access invoicing or something of that sort, right? As opposed to Claude Code and Clay. Well, Clay you should basically just use just on your computer. And for OpenClaw, you use team-wide, so your team has access to this AI agent as well. So that's my theory on go-to-market. That's my theory on the three main pillars and the three main tools that you may want to consider for your business. There are a lot more that we can talk about, like Hermes agents that I know, Kinna, you're a huge fan of. But to be totally honest, OpenClaw, is in direct competition with Hermes agents. So over here, you could use Hermes agent interchangeably as well. Any thoughts on that, Kinna?
No, fantastic. This is also great. We use Hermes, but I am kind of inclined towards trying OpenClaw as well. Hermes, we always have to run it in the terminal. They came out with a UI that looks like an IDE, but it doesn't work for longer running tasks. So I love all that you shared. I think beyond just these agents, the whole picture fits so well now. You started with, how somebody could choose their audience, as a B2B company. What are the things they could do in Clay? What are the things they could do beyond Clay in Claude Code? Lot of tools that you shared names of. And I think people underestimate sometimes the kind of benefits stuff like this could bring. Because if you choose the right tool, it saves you months and literally tens of thousands of dollars in wasted effort. Because I love Smartlead, and I love it that you've ranked it number one. I had Webber on the podcast as well, the founder of Smartlead, and it works great. And you have this file that you just showed on screen. I think this episode is literally thousands of dollars of value packed in because of the Robin Hood of Outbound. That's you, Tim.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Kenna. Yeah, to be totally honest, for context, I'm bringing in my first head of operations right now because before we previously had mid-level hires, or not exactly executive leadership that can take, the agency to the next level of getting up to 10, 15 employees, which is huge if you're using AI to capacity. And in this case, one of the biggest things, similar to what you said there, instead of us jumping on new tools like revenue attribution tools and those kind of things that most of the time you'll get in place straight away, Instead, we're literally locking out ourselves in a co-working for 2 weeks. We're scoping on a manual level in Miro boards how the entire business runs end to end, from the point of client acquisition, client onboarding, client service delivery, and the rest of it, upsells, cross sells, whatever. And only after you scope it inside of a Miro board, at the very least, in my opinion, only at that point can you then understand how do you automate the business? What tools do you really need in order to pull this off? Because if I'm totally honest with you, like way too many people right now, in my opinion, are just jumping on these tools, burning through the free trials, burning through credits, only to realize like, hey, what are we doing with our lives? We should be doing this differently. We should be like scoping it manually. And that's why like you can just see a quick preview here. So this is like what our current SOPs look like, right? So you can see a lot of unresolved questions. And before, like everything is color coded. So every single part of the flow has like a trigger, consequence actions. We have a tool attached to it. We have like a level of priority, what team owns that area. And only after all of this is, clarified, only at that point will I fund any sort of software tools and software expenses, because otherwise I just don't see how we can use software if we don't know on a manual level what the hell we're doing. And that's just, I tried to be an open book about this because I share in public like all of the ups, like all of the highs, all of the lows. And one recommendation I have for everyone watching this is write things down on a Miro board, and only after you understand and scope those use cases, only at that point buy software. Because otherwise, as much as I want to give you a bunch of affiliate links, please just like hold off that temptation just yet.
You need to stop giving value now. I don't want to develop diabetes. You're giving so much of sweetness.
I try. I barely trying hard with this, but honestly, it's an absolute privilege because, as I mentioned already, like I find that I'm now in a sweet spot where I can actually share as much knowledge as I want, because I know regardless I have paid products that people go to, but at the same time, you can see in WhatsApp chats every week just answering random questions about what scraping tool to use or something like that, because I quite like the GP.
No, wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing so freely, Tim. It's been like phenomenal. And like I said, I owe you one, because my campaign like improved only from the hour-long conversation we had. So I think you packed way more value than what we discussed last time. And, we'll drop in links to some of the tools and the swipe file that you mentioned. But thank you so much for doing this. I hope to do this very soon again with you.
Absolutely. Bring it on. I can't wait for the next Claude Code to enter the picture, and then we'll do another like emergency episode on how to use it. So appreciate the invite, Kinner. And as always, absolute pleasure speaking to you.
Thank you.